Welcome back to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
So today we're diving into something really core for a lot of people learning English. Yeah, that big question, how do I actually get fluent? We hear it all the time.
Right.
And the internet's just full of advice, some good, some less helpful.
It's a lot of noise. So our mission today is really to cut through that. We've gone through the research, the expert takes, what actually works for learners.
And boil it down for you, give you a clear path, something you can actually use.
Exactly. A practical roadmap based on what we found.
Okay, let's unpack this, because maybe the first, most crucial thing we found, running through everything, is about expectations.
It's a mindset shift, really.
Fluency. It's just not about being perfect, not about getting every single word right.
No, not at all. It's fundamentally about communication, getting your point across confidently.
And once you accept that, apparently the whole process feels different, less pressure.
That's key, that psychological release. If you're always aiming for zero mistakes, well, you'll never feel like you're fluent.
So true fluency feels more like effortlessness.
Kind of, yeah. It's that feeling of ease when you speak and understand.
Okay, so let's nail down a definition. When we talk about fluency, what are we actually measuring? Is it like knowing thousands of words, perfect grammar?
Not primarily, no. The research points to being able to speak and understand pretty easily, with a natural flow.
So not stopping all the time to search for words or figure out grammar?
Exactly. It's about smoothness. You can have a conversation, ask questions, answer them, without these big, long pauses or getting stuck constantly.
I think that's a really important point for listeners. Because lots of people feel they need, super complex words or fancy idioms.
That's often where they get tripped up. The sources really emphasize that speaking smoothly and naturally, even with simple English, that's what sounds fluent. Much more than, say, hesitating over some complex word you're not sure about.
So aim for flow, not complexity.
Precisely. And think about lexical chunks, those natural word groupings.
Lexical chunks. Okay, can you explain that a bit more for someone who hasn't heard the term?
Sure. So instead of thinking word by word, like I look forward to, you learn common phrases as single blocks. On the other hand, I look forward to, nice to meet you.
Ah, okay. So fluent speakers grab these whole chunks at once.
Right. They retrieve them ready-made. It helps you bypass consciously applying grammar rules for every little thing, which is what really slows people down.
That makes a lot of sense. And it circles back to that pressure thing you mentioned. Even native speakers mess up grammar all the time.
Constantly. We all do. So the real standard for fluency isn't perfection, it's communication. Can you get your message across effectively? That's the goal.
Okay. So don't agonize over every little which or that.
Exactly. That time is much better spent actually practicing communication.
Got it. That mindset shift is huge. So now let's clear away some other baggage. What about the common myths? The things that hold people back?
Yeah, let's bust some myths right now. We found 3 big ones that really add pressure.
Okay. Myth number 1.
You have to sound exactly like a native speaker. Like perfect American or British accent.
But people try so hard for that. Isn't it important for being understood? Being understood is important, yes. Clear pronunciation matters. But sounding native? No. The sources are clear. Fluency with your own accent is perfectly fine and often better. Better. How so?
Because trying too hard to force an accent often makes you hesitate more. It makes your speech less smooth, which works against fluency. Focus on clear sounds, not mimicking an entire accent.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a big relief, I bet. What's myth number 2? Vocabulary.
You need tons of difficult, fancy vocabulary. Again, mostly a distraction.
Really?
Yeah. Think about effective speakers, even native speakers. They rely on a core of pretty simple, common words most of the time.
So the skill is using those simple words well.
Exactly. Using them correctly, in the right context, with the words they naturally go with collocations. That's way more important than knowing obscure words.
Okay. And that leads us right into myth number 3, which we touched on, but it's worth hitting again.
Fluency means making zero mistakes.
Which we know is impossible, even for native speakers.
Right. If you wait until you're perfect to speak, you'll literally never speak. Mistakes are just part of learning. Fluency is about the confidence to keep going, to get your message across, even with small errors.
Okay, pressure off. We know what fluency really is, smooth, confident communication. So let's get practical. Where do we start? What are the core practices?
Right, the action steps. Based on everything, there are 5 core things. And the absolute most important, underpinning everything else, is practice 1. Speak every day. every single day. But hang on, what if you don't live in an English-speaking place or don't have anyone to talk to? That's the great thing. The sources are very clear. Talk to yourself.
Like yourself.
Seriously,
Sit down.
take your pet. Talk to the mirror. Narrate what you're doing. It sounds weird, maybe, but it works. It's about activating the production parts of your brain, physically making the sounds, forming the sentences.
So it's less about getting feedback in that moment and more about just using the language actively.
Precisely. It's about moving words from your passive vocabulary, the words you recognize when you read into your active vocabulary, the words you can actually use when you speak.
Turning recognition into recall.
Yeah.
Yeah. One source used a great analogy. Speaking is like a muscle. If you don't use your mouth muscles, they get lazy. You have to exercise them daily. Like that. Okay, so speak every day. Practice number 2 is about input. Listen constantly.
Yes. Maximum exposure, podcasts, music, movies, YouTube, whatever you can get.
Why is listening so critical? Beyond just understanding, I mean.
Because listening is how you absorb those natural lexical chunks we talked about. It's how you internalize the rhythm, the sentence patterns, the intonation of real English.
Intonation, you mentioned that earlier. Let's define it. It's the music of the language.
Exactly. The rise and fall of your voice. It carries a lot of meaning in English. Like a rising tone often means a question, right? A falling tone means a statement is finished.
And you can't really learn that well from a book.
Not subconsciously, no. Textbooks tell you the rules, but listening lets your brain just absorb the patterns naturally. So when you speak, your voice does the right things without you having to consciously think, okay, raise pitch now. It's crucial for sounding natural.
Makes sense. Okay, speaking, listening. What about reading and writing? Practices 3 and 4. Read and write regularly. For reading, the key is don't make it feel like homework. Start small if you need to, like kids' books or social media posts.
Yeah. Or short stories, articles on topics you like. The point is, active reading, maybe noticing new words or chunks you can use later. It feeds your speaking practice.
And writing. Daily journaling.
Journaling is great, yeah. But even simpler things count. Send messages in English, write social media captions in English, change your phone's language.
Why is writing so helpful for speaking fluency?
Because it forces you to actively construct sentences and organize thoughts in English, but in a lower pressure way than speaking. You have time to think. It reinforces grammar and vocabulary you're learning. It's deliberate practice. Okay, very practical. Which brings us to the 5th practice, the mindset one, which might be the toughest. Embrace mistakes. Here's where it gets really interesting. Yeah, this is totally counterintuitive for most people.
Because we're taught mistakes are bad, right? Avoid them.
Exactly. But the sources say successful learners almost seek them out. Not deliberately try to be wrong, but they understand that mistakes are essential data.
Data? How so?
Well, if you're not making any mistakes, it probably means you're playing it safe, you're staying in your comfort zone, you're not pushing yourself.
So a mistake shows you where the edge of your current ability is.
Precisely. It's not a failure, it's a signpost. It tells you exactly what you need to work on next. You have to speak enough to make errors, then notice them, figure out the correction, and try again. That's the learning loop.
That's a much healthier way to look at it. Okay, so don't self-edit so much you never actually speak.
Right. Because confidence comes from practice, practice involves risk, and risk inevitably leads to mistakes. You have to accept that cycle.
Makes sense. Now, a big challenge with any learning plan, especially long-term, is just boredom. Sticking with it, how do we keep it engaging? The fun factor. Crucial. The solution is simple. Make it fun and relevant to your life. So less reliance on maybe boring grammar exercises.
Way less, ideally. You need to weave English into things you already enjoy, your hobbies, your interests.
Okay, give us some concrete examples from the research.
Sure. Like if you love football, read match reports in English, watch interviews with players in English. If you're into cooking, find recipes in English, watch English language cooking shows.
Video games.
Switch the language setting to English. The point is, if you're genuinely interested in the topic, you stay engaged longer, and you absorb the language almost subconsciously. You pick up vocabulary related to your interests without it feeling like study.
That's smart. And often, when you're doing things you enjoy, it naturally leads to connecting with others, right? Community.
Exactly. Joining a community is huge. It gives you accountability, support, and most importantly, real practice.
Practice actually talking to people.
Yeah, negotiating meaning, having to explain yourself, understand others in real time. That kind of pressure is fantastic for activating your skills.
What kinds of communities did the sources suggest, beyond just like formal classes?
They really highlighted online options that are super accessible now. Things like WhatsApp or Facebook groups focused on a shared interest where people chat in English.
Okay.
and especially language exchange apps, things like Tandem, HelloTalk, Speaky.
How do those work?
Basically, they connect you with native speakers of English who are learning your language. So you chat maybe half the time in English, half the time in their target language. It's low-stakes practice with real people.
That sounds really useful. Anyone could start that today. Okay, to make this even more real for people listening, let's share some specific habits. Things actual learners used to get fluent.
Yeah, these little daily habits make a huge difference. Okay, so there was Lena from Brazil. Her thing was simple. She talked to herself in English for 5 minutes every morning before work. Just 5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes. Not complex stuff, just getting your brain switched into English mode for the day, warming up those mouth muscles.
I love how achievable that sounds.
Okay, who else?
Then Ahmed from Egypt. He used his phone's voice recorder. He'd talk about his day, just record himself speaking natural.
Okay, and then?
Then later, he'd listen back. He kept his own repeated mistakes, things he didn't notice while speaking. It created a self-correction loop.
Ah, using mistakes as data again. Very smart, without
Yeah.
needing a teacher right there.
Exactly. And one more, May from Japan. She loved cooking. So she watched English cooking shows, but with English subtitles on.
Ah, combining hobby with learning.
Right. She wasn't just passively watching. She was actively picking up all that specific cooking vocabulary, ingredients, techniques, while enjoying something she loved anyway.
These examples really drive it home. Fluency isn't about locking yourself away with books. It's about weaving English into your actual life.
Absolutely. Which leads to the final piece, really. The mindset for the long haul.
Right. Because this takes time, doesn't it? It's not overnight.
Definitely not. We have to be realistic. It takes months, usually years. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
And that can be tough in our instant results world. So what's the key advice for sticking with it?
The biggest piece of advice from across the sources was, do not compare yourself to others.
Seriously?
Oh, that's a big one with social media. Seeing people who seem fluent instantly.
Exactly. It's usually misleading anyway. But everyone learns differently, at their own pace. Comparing just breeds frustration and makes you want to quit. Focus on your journey, your progress.
So fluency isn't really a destination you suddenly arrive at. Not really. It's more of a continuous journey. And small steps forward are still steps forward. If you could say something a little more smoothly today than yesterday, that's a win.
Focus on consistent, enjoyable effort, not some imaginary finish line.
That's it. Patience and consistency. They're your best friends in this process.
So, what does this all mean? Let's pull it together. We've cut through the noise. Fluency is smooth, confident communication. Mistakes. They're not failures, they're tools.
Right. You've got to speak every day, even to yourself, to make your knowledge active. Listen constantly to absorb the real rhythm.
Read and write regularly, starting small, and crucially, make it fun. Link it to what you love.
Find a community if you can. Embrace those mistakes as learning opportunities. Focus on consistency.
It's about the process, the daily engagement.
Exactly. And if you combine these things, time, patience, consistent, and enjoyable practice, fluency is absolutely achievable. You have what it takes. It's about applying the right approach. Okay, so since fluency is really about that smooth delivery, that confidence, rather than just knowing obscure words, here's a final thought for you to consider. What if tomorrow you shifted your focus? Instead of trying to memorize 5 difficult new words, what if you focused on saying 5 simple everyday sentences, but with perfect natural intonation? How much faster might you feel fluent by focusing on flow over complexity? Something to think about. Keep practicing, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.